Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, December 4th City Council meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee.
Here.
Alderman Glad.
Here.
Alderman McClatchy.
Here.
Alderwoman Bassey. Here. Alderman Strack.
Here.
Alderman Cook.
Here.
Alderwoman Miller.
Please stand for the pledge.
Here.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to open up for public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a public comment that are items that are not on the agenda this evening? See none. Moving on to the presentation of the annual financial report for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2023. Sezian is here. If you could please step up to the podium, hit the middle button so that way it turns on the mic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, hi, I'm Kevin. I've been here the past few years to present, so just want to come out like we normally do in past years and just kind of give you guys a little rundown on how the audit went and where some of the financial numbers ended for the year. So audit itself, everything went well. Got everything that we needed, didn't have any significant issues. Journal entries for this year, nothing significant. Usually we make a few entries to reclass some things. Nothing significant though. There were a couple things that were different for this year though. Nothing for your guys's, or that was a mistake or anything. We did make a prior period adjustment. It's more accepted practice now that things like income taxes are recorded on the cash basis instead of accrual basis, just because they're not really attached to anything you guys enforce. It has to do with what the state allocates to you guys each month. So that's become more accepted practice. We've changed that for basically every governmental entity that we audit that has those type of taxes. So that's new for this year. And then also GASB 87 for leases. You guys did have something that applied under this. So there were some entries in the water sewer fund that were required to account for this. It had to do with the AT&T tower lease that you guys have. So there's an asset on the books now for a receivable for amounts that you're going to get over the term of that agreement, and then also deferred revenue on the books as well. You're essentially going to recognize revenue for that whole contract on a straight line basis at the present value of those payments right now. So those two are a little different than in the past, but they're one-time things that shouldn't happen in the future then as well. As far as the report itself, so no single audit this year. Last year you guys had an alternative method single audit related to the ARP monies. All those expenses were accounted for that year. This year's a little bit of money that's recognized this year, but all the expenses were accounted for then, and that was taken care of last year, so there was no single audit related to that this year because that's all expenditure based. As far as the management letter, nothing in the current year, same as it has been in prior years. The report, you got a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can get. Then as far as new accounting standards affecting the report this year, so SB 87, like I mentioned, that was a standard related to leases. Essentially what that did is if you had a long-term agreement for a physical type asset, you would record an asset on the books and a liability on the books. Same concept, you guys were leasing something in the case, like you guys were leasing the tower lease for the cell phone towers, you would have a receivable and then deferred revenue related to that. As I mentioned, you guys did have the AT&T lease. As far as physical assets you guys are leasing yourselves as the lessor, you guys didn't have anything that applied for that was material. So no changes there for that. Next year will be GASB 96. It's essentially the same type of standard, except instead of a physical asset, it has to do with more cloud-based like technologies that you guys have long-term agreements for. The thought is for local governments that potentially there might be more of an exposure to this with things like the various police softwares that you may have in the vehicles or in the department itself. So that's something that's going to be looked at throughout the year, and then we'll decide if that's something that needs to have anything recorded on it for next year. So that's going to be next year. We'll talk about that next year when that happens. As far as financial highlights, so usually like to hit on some things on areas you guys are used to seeing on a regular basis, and then we get the government-wide, which is kind of the long-term focus that you guys don't see on a regular basis. So fund balance on page 17 of the report. The governmental funds in total were up about $1.5 million from current year activity, which is a little over about 8 months of total governmental expense for this year, which is almost exactly in the same spot you guys were in last year. So still in a good position. You guys were in a good position last year, still in a good position now. More specifically than your guys' general fund is at about $19.5 million at the end of the year, almost which all of it is unrestricted, which is just a little under 9 months of current year expense. Again, similar position that you guys were in last year, so no real big change there. All the other funds, for the most part, are in a good position. None of them seem like they're too high. None of them seem too low. Some of them look lower when you're looking through the report, so things like the debt service fund, some of the capital funds. But you guys usually fund those for various transfers and build those up for certain purposes. So no real concern there either. The recreation center fund is a little lower at just about 2 months of current year expense. However, it did improve from last year. It was down a little bit because of COVID and memberships were down. It did improve this year, so it is getting better. So we're continuing to watch that. It's still in a decent spot. You guys transfer money over there as needed. So no real concern there either. Business type then, so this is your water sewer fund. Ended at about $11.5 million, which is about a year and 5 months of current year expense. Again, pretty much the same spot you guys were in last year. Last year, I think, was 11 months, or a year and about 4 months. So no real big change there. Again, in a good spot there too, so no concerns there. Government-wide financial statements then, page 14 of the report. This is more of the long-term focus, things you guys aren't used to seeing on a regular basis. So this is where all your fixed assets come into play, long-term debt comes into play, all your pension liabilities come into play, things like that. For that, the current year, there was an increase of about $1.2 million from current year activity in the governmental activities. I usually direct you guys to page 18 of the report then. There's a nice reconciliation there where it'll show you how you get from the $1.5 million number I mentioned before down to the $1.2 million. There's various factors that contribute to that. So for example, when you guys buy a capital asset in the government funds, it's an expense. When you get to the government-wide, it's a fixed asset. It gets moved off the books. It's no longer an expense. You depreciate that. So you always have differences between your depreciation expense and your capital outlay expenses. That's a portion of it. Then things like your pension liabilities, your contributions you make into those each year reduces the liability in the government-wide statements, whereas on the funds, they're an expense. And then you have expenses related to those pension liabilities that are accrued by an actuary. Those expenses come on the books on the government-wide. Those aren't expenses for the funds. They're not cash transactions. Then also your guys' long-term debt. When you make long-term debt payments on the funds, it's an expense. When you get to the government-wide, it reduces the liability. So the accumulation of all those things accounts for your change this year. It almost nets to not a significant change this year. Sometimes you guys will have swings if the pension liabilities change quite a bit. This year that didn't happen, so it's fairly similar to what your guys' fund financial statements were for this year. So those are basically the areas I usually like to hit on here. So unless you guys have specific questions on the report, I will leave it up to you guys.
Any questions by council? Nope.
Yep. I got one over
Alderman
there.
Cook?
I have 3 questions. How much did we bring in? How much was paid out and what was left over?
What was left over is the numbers that I gave you. So I don't have the exact numbers of what you brought in, what you put out in front of me right now, but the fund balance numbers are the numbers I gave you where you ended up at. So, for example, business type, what's left over is the $11.5 million. When you go to the governmental funds, you ended at $24.3 million. That's what's left over. The general fund specifically is $19.5 million.
And that carries over into the next year?
Correct.
I'm new at this, so I'm just...
Yeah, no, and I can get you exact numbers if needed. I just don't have each fund right in front of me right now. There's multiple funds in there with that, so all the ins and outs, I don't have that right in front of me.
So the $19.5 million in the general fund, that's a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good thing, and
Over into our next budget year? Okay.
and it's also not a number from our perspective that's too high either. So as I mentioned in there, you're at about 9 months of current year expense in that number. That's going to carry over to cover things for next year. That's not a number that seems like it's too high. Usually we say once you get to 2 years, that's when when you start getting close to that number, that's when you're getting too high, and you want to worry about having too much in reserves.
I don't know, you never can have too much.
Any other, you have another question?
One more. It says here, unearned revenue. What is that?
So you have, there's various things that can be. A big chunk of it on an annual basis is property taxes. So your property taxes, when you levy for property taxes, Illinois is a year in arrears. So when you levy for these in December coming up, you're going to do it right now. You're not going to collect those for another year. But you know what those numbers are going to be. So you have a receivable on the books for those, but then you also have a deferral, unearned revenue of those amounts that you're going to recognize in the future year when you actually collect those monies. Property taxes are a big chunk of it. There are various other little things you guys have. You may have, for example, recreation center. There's funds you guys may get, memberships may be paid in advance. Those aren't earned yet. Those aren't going to be earned yet until the membership actually happens. So there's something like that. It could also be a piece of that.
One more question.
Okay.
The payments to employees for services, what does that mean?
Payments to employees, this is payroll. Payroll. So yeah, that's payroll. That's essentially your labor costs that you guys are paying to your employees.
Huh. Be easier to put down payroll, wouldn't it? I'm scratching my head and saying, I am a new one, so now that you explained to me, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions by council? All right. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there any items that the council would like to pull for separate consideration? Alderman Cook?
B.
Okay. Any others? At this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve 6A and then 6C through E. Alderman Strack?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Miller?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion on any of these items by council? Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. And council, item 6B was pulled by Alderman Cook as Shamrocks to Fox event approvals. Go ahead, Alderman Cook.
When I'm looking at it, is that last year you had open liquor for how many days for Shamrock?
3 days.
3 days?
Sorry.
And Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yes.
Parade was when?
Saturday.
Saturday. Was there a profit made?
There was. Last year we made about $1,000. Our sponsorships were down last year, but we made about $1,000. The year before we made about $7,000. So when you throw in a fireworks show, it's $10,000. It affects your bottom line.
Yeah.
That, you know, the benefactor really of the event is our downtown businesses, quite honestly, where we don't lose money. The amount of people that we bring into town and the business that we generate for people coming to town to those businesses really is part of the point of the event. That was kind of the reason for the event.
I get it. Is the police all involved in it and all that is covered and clean up and everything else like that?
When you say they're covered, the city covers it from the bottom line.
Yeah.
We don't,
don't you add extra patrols or
we
extra
do,
officers?
but we're not charging ourselves for services.
Okay. And this open liquor, do they get to walk around from
They do.
Main Street?
Not from Main Street.
Okay, but all the way Riverside, Pearl Street, all that to Veterans Park and all that,
Yes.
all up and down in there. And this is maintained by the cup that
No.
you have?
No, not on Shamrocks to Fox. It's been that way from the start of the event. We do have limited hours, and I take back, we didn't actually do it on Friday night. We only did it from 11 to 6 on Saturday and 12 to 6 on Sunday. When it became dark, we did not. But for that particular day, you can walk around with whatever
Whatever.
cup you walk out of. There's not a special cup like the dining and entertainment district that we're discussing.
Okay. So you're having one more day of open liquor and celebration on Friday?
We would not do open liquor on Friday. I misspoke on that. We did not do it on Friday because it's an evening. It was more the tent and everything is set up, and so at that point we'll treat it as a bar, not We will not have open liquor. That's not requested to have open liquor on Friday night. The same format as last year, which would be the open liquor on Saturday and on Sunday.
Sounds good to me.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman Santee?
So on Friday night then, Bill, we're selling alcohol on Miller Point by the tent, by the music, but everything has to stay contained in that area.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Or any other business that's open that evening, you can't walk out the door with
Got it.
anything that night.
Okay. And the other thing, it was mentioned in the packet about sponsorships and partnerships. Safe to say that what we can do soliciting in regards to, going out there looking for sponsorships, because I was concerned, and I voiced my opinion to you earlier today about the $1,000, because normally we've been, as far as I can recall, anywhere between $6,000 and maybe even $12,000 that we've made on previous years.
We have done
Not
better.
made, but
Yeah.
run it over, put it into next year, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We've done better than we did last year.
Okay.
But that was largely due to the sponsorships.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Glenn? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just one question, Bill. We gonna have signs out there as far as for Friday night, as far as,
We do have signs at the point that say, alcohol, no alcohol allowed beyond this point, or I don't remember if we have signs made up that will say no, like we don't put signs up around town that say no open container on Friday night. But at the point, we do a
I'm
best
just
job we
thinking
can
that
of managing it.
you're gonna have patrons that, have either last year been there on Saturday or Sunday and figuring it's part of the celebration and just automatically figure that it's okay on Friday nights, so.
Yeah.
Just might wanna think of some kind of signage, to curtail that, that's all.
Absolutely, at Miller Point, we can do the best job we can of that, and especially by the bridge and by Miller's Dream Marine. Those are two control points, or even on Riverside Drive by the sidewalk, that can manage pretty well with signage.
Well, maybe you get some signage that, people that are out there Friday will realize, you could be advertising, the open carry on Saturday and Sunday, and the fact that, sorry, that it's not tonight, but, so you accomplish two things with the signs.
Yeah.
So it might be food for thought to look at it that way.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman Bassi?
Real quick, Bill, you said controlled points.
Sure.
Are you referring that there's actually going to be somebody there monitoring so that they don't go on the bridge?
We do not have people at each of those spots. We have general staff that's there working the event, but in years past, last year was the first year we did a Friday, we did not station somebody at the bridge and at Miller's Dream Marine and at Riverside Drive, just for those specific locations.
Okay. And then again, as Alderman Glab mentioned, so would you be willing to put signs there saying, no alcohol
Yes.
beyond this point on those
Yes.
areas? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? I'm looking for a motion to approve 6B as presented. Alderman Santee?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second, Alderman McClatchy?
I'll second.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassi?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda is 7A is amendments to downtown parking permits. Motion to pass an ordinance amending Title 7, Chapter 4, Section 7, permit parking of the McHenry City Code. I am looking for a motion to approve 7A as presented. Alderman Cook?
Make that motion.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Bassi?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Discussion by City Council? See none. Open it up for public comment. Alderman Santee, go ahead.
No, real quick, I think it's a Monty question. Of these permits, any idea of how many we sold last year, or what percentage?
Yes, so last year, and we wanted to break it down by residential and business. Last year, residential on Main Street, we sold 1, and we sold no business ones on Main Street. Court Street, we had 3 residential and 13 business. Riverside, we had 8 residential and 21 business. And Green Street, we had 4 residential and no business. So you want me to total those up real quick, or do you care about this? So we had a total of 1 on Main, 16 on Court, 29 on Riverside, and 4 on Green.
So 61.
That's the total to the best we can.
Something like that.
Because what's our total spaces allotted to this?
Okay, so on Main Street, between the north and south lots, we have kind of 36 because that Main Street south lot is kind of weird. You know, there's like the parking spots are weird. There's 36 regular spots plus 1 handicap spot on Main. There's 36 regular spots and 2 handicap spots on Riverside Alley. Court Street, so there's different Court Street lots. Total on Court Street, if you don't care which little lot there is, there are 79. There's 79 total on Court, plus 3 handicapped.
Behind Gambler.
I'm sorry, and then Riverside Drive is,
Riverside Drive had 36 regular ones and 2
Okay.
handicapped ones.
all right. And our sale was maybe around 60 last year?
61.
61, okay. All right, thank you.
So, just to be clear, those are the total spaces available in each lot for the entire parking, yeah. Okay, just want to make sure that those aren't reserved, those are permit parking and general parking, both. That's all the spaces available in those lots. I just want to be very clear, we don't have reserved of that many only permit parking in each of those areas. That's all the parking that's in those lots.
Thank you.
So that means you roll the dice and hope you get a parking spot? There's no sign that says permit parking or anything else like that?
There is signage that says permit parking. I think one of the things with this ordinance, and I think part of the reason for the increase is that we need to do a little better job of signage and saying, a good example is Court Street. That's probably the best signed lot for permit parking. There's one row in particular that is permit parking only. There's 2 rows there right now that are permit parking only, the most north and the most south. Riverside Drive, it's any of those spots. If you have a permit, you can park in any of those spots. So we just need to do a little bit better job of signage, like Main Street is a good example of, we should designate where we want the permit parking to be, so that it helps with our enforcement, but it also, helps for us for somebody to say, all right, I can park in these spots, and they, as a resident or as a business, doesn't become necessarily a reserved spot, but in some essence, it kind of does.
Kind of does, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alderman Bessie.
Monty, quick question for you. The people that currently have the permits, have paid for the permits, are they aware of the increase?
No, because we didn't know if you wanted to change that tonight. We didn't tell anybody anything because we didn't say these are the prices and have you guys, have you guys say no and then us turn around, you know what I mean? And
Right.
so about the reserve spot, so I've got in there, this does not, if you buy a sticker, that does not guarantee you a spot. Like, because we could sell 20 spots and they could all be for businesses in the morning, and then you have 20 spots open that we need to fill up because in the evening there's a lot going on in town. So I have it in the ordinance too. This does not guarantee you a spot that you have a sticker. This just guarantees you're not going to get a ticket by parking where you're supposed to during these times.
How many people are taking advantage of the permit? You went through all that list, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I was just, then my next question is not really valid, but I just want to know if there was any pushback on the increase, going from $60 to $100 and going from $10 to $60. So
The only people that know about that are you or whoever read the packet. We haven't told anybody about this yet because we didn't.
okay.
Yeah, we haven't told anybody about that. So one of the businesses that buys business permits, I went in and it was talking to them about what we were doing. there was no complaint at all about the business permit. Oh, we just let us know what it is. We're happy to do it.
Okay.
But that's only one business I talked to.
Okay.
Chief?
Yep.
Just a couple things for some history with this. So we added business permit parking just a few years ago because we were having a problem with employees taking premium spots up in the downtown business district. So in order to encourage them to park in outlots that allowed permit parking and basically waived the 4-hour requirement, we put the price of that permit pretty low just to try to engage them and get them to actually get permits. What we found was out of all those business permits, it's really like 3 businesses buying them all. Like one business, like, oh, they're $10 a piece. I'll buy 13 permits for all my employees, and so there's really not a lot of businesses buying business permits. I think the one on Riverside Drive, Monty, is 13 of them.
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, and it's easier for us to enforce, and it's more of an option for people. The overnight or the residential one, we pick the numbers by location based on the rough amount of actual apartments above those businesses. So we looked at Riverside Drive and said, how many people are living above the businesses on Riverside Drive? And we tried to mirror those parkings, so we didn't take away from all 36 spots, but there's only 10 units. And the same thing goes for Green Street, and the same thing goes for Main Street. So we weren't overselling. Plus, we wanted to make it really clear that you had to have a driver's license that showed you lived on that street to get a residential permit, because we weren't doing that before as well. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of cleaned it up a little bit along the ways. We have a problem with parking. We know that when council moves forward with whatever development's going to go on down there, that problem's just going to get worse during construction years, because that's going to take time. We want to make sure that we have this all squared away ahead of time.
Anyone have any other questions, comments? You good? Okay. All right. Open up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a public comment regarding 7A? See none, clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Massey?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Stratt?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is 7B is annexation of land. Motion to pass an ordinance annexing 2.68 acres tract of land located on the southeast corner of Lakeshore Drive and McCollum Lake Road. Director Palarecki.
Thank you, Mayor. And if we could, I'm just going to explain B and C together because they kind of coincide with one another. 1997, we did a land swap with McCollum Lake for the horse pasture out there at the farm. We just realized here recently that the city never actually annexed that property into the city of McHenry. So that's 2 parcels, I believe, in front of the horse barn that are currently pasture. So that is B. The motion on B is to annex that land in, and then while we were at it, we went ahead and took it through planning and zoning for a conditional use permit to zone it properly, A1 agricultural district with the conditional use permit to operate a horse stable, indoor-outdoor horse arena, equestrian-related agritourism, and zoning variations to allow the pasture in the required front yard setback. So B is to annex the land, and then an additional vote would be C for the conditional use permit. That kind of leads us into our discussion. Here to answer any questions.
You want to handle these first and then have a discussion about the use of the property?
Yeah, and we'll actually vote on these together.
Well, you can't, Mayor. You have to vote on B.
You can vote on both.
Oh, I guess you can. Yeah, let the attorney know.
We'll do them separately.
I'm sorry, you're talking separate votes, or you're talking?
Together.
We'll split it. If there's a split vote, then we'll go back and we'll split them out and we'll do them separately, because you wouldn't know why you're voting no.
Okay. You know, this is hanging out here for 30 years, or close to 30 years, this whole problem. None of this would have been probably brought up if it wasn't for the fact that I brought up the barn in the first place. Yet we're having a discussion right after this about the barn. Why wouldn't we just wait on this until after we have the discussion and then have time to come up with plans of exactly what we want, so we're not going to do the zoning all over again? I mean, this conditional use permit and zoning is for the entire property that is right now zoned the state, correct?
Mm-hmm.
The property that's in there right now is zoned the state?
Well, part of it's not even zoned because it's not annexed into the city, so.
But the other part is the state zoning right now.
Yes, I believe it is.
Yes, at least that's what our zoning map shows.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, why don't we take and table this until the following meeting, and let's have the discussion tonight on the barn and where we're going with it, before we start messing around with the zoning and everything else on this property. The annexation and, if we want to clean that up, I have no problem, but as far as the zoning and all that, I would rather see that, held off until till we've had our discussion and, had time to, develop some plans of what we're doing or if we're going to do anything out there, so. It's my opinion on it.
Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you. I would make motion that we approve 7B and C.
Well, it's obvious we're not going to have a unanimous, so you
Yeah.
might as well split.
So we'll split them up. So 7B, you want to make a motion
I'll
to
do,
approve?
okay, B.
Okay. Can I get a second? Alderman Miller?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion by City Council on 7B. Alderman Strack?
Although I understand Alderman Glabb's point, I don't think that B or C really need to be delayed because I don't think we're going to change the use of what that property is. I mean, it's been this horse barn for a long time. I can't imagine that we're going to, even during a big discussion around what the use may be of that property, it's still going to be related to what it is. And I understand where you're at with Alderman Glabb. I just don't know that it is worth extending when the use won't change anytime soon. So again, I just wanted to say that I think we probably can do them together, in my opinion, because we would have to change it again anyway down the road, so it wouldn't matter. Thank you.
Alderman Bassi?
Real quick question. How long of a lease does the city have with the barn, with Hickory Creek?
We signed it last year, and it's a 5-year lease. So
It's
5-year lease.
Any extensions
I don't believe
in the
there's
contract?
I don't believe there's an extension built into the lease.
I did not see that.
So there's 4 years left?
Yes.
Okay. Any thoughts, what happens at the end of the full 5 years?
My thought is to renew with a great existing tenant, is my thought.
Somebody new, so not necessarily.
The great existing tenant that we have right here that has done in 1 year, I think, has turned the property around.
Okay. So it would be an extension?
It would be a new.
No, a new lease.
It would be
It'd be a discussion of a new lease.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments regarding 7B? Open up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a public comment regarding this item? And once again, this is for just the annexation. This is just for the zoning, annexation only.
Hi, guys. I'm
Hello.
Bridget Barong with RJJ Ranch, doing business out of your property, Hickory Creek Farms. I would love to get this all solved tonight because I would love an address. We're kind of like the Bermuda Triangle, and if I call the cops for any sort of reason, or fire, or whatever I need, they don't know where it is. So then I say the Big Horse Barn on McComb Lake Road, and not many people know that actually belongs to the city of McHenry. So if we could get the zoning passed for that and have it be A1, so we actually can have horses on the property, that would be great. So.
Thank you.
Mayor, for clarification, I don't believe, I think the annexation of the land will cause the address, not the zoning. The zoning doesn't cause for an address. I think the address would come with the annexation of the land itself. Am I not correct?
It has an address. It's 2800 Derby Lane.
Okay.
When you look at it, it's there. It's just in some of our maps. You look for an address that was off of McComb Lake Road, and that's our desire, is to change it to an address that's off of McComb Lake Road. Derby Lane is actually an internal road that it is confusing.
Derby Lane was never dedicated, it's not a dedicated right-of-way. So you can't use Derby Lane as the address. It's a private road. It actually has 4400 Lakeshore Drive, which is a McCullum Lake address. So we will, after this, if this passes, well, regardless if this passes or not, we will do an internal memo to the post office and all the people that we have to change the address to 4401 McCullum Lake Road. And we can change the address, annexation or not, or zoning or not, it doesn't matter. It's just a memo to the post office and the county.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. Again, my concern more than anything else is why all this comes in before the discussion, but so be it. If the other council members don't feel there's a difference, I kind of wonder with the zoning, if we're doing any kind of commercial out there, will that, I guess we'd have to do what, conditional uses for any kind of commercial that might wind up out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can easily change the conditional use if something comes up in the discussion and we want to use the property differently. Yes, that's, this actually didn't come up because of your concerns, Alderman Glab. This came up because we had an issue with the police department or the fire department not knowing the proper address out there. So with the NERCOM, we're trying to figure out what to address the property, and we did research into it, and we found out it wasn't annexed, and then because it wasn't annexed, and we were like, it doesn't have a conditional use permit, so let's just take it through the process. Honest to God, it just happened to be at the same time that you brought up the discussion. But it was a police call that initiated this.
I've got a crystal ball, what can I say, No, that's fine. I guess with the discussions and where we're going to go, I guess I don't have too much of a problem with zoning as well, so that's fine.
Any other questions, comments by council? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Mayor Judd?
Yes. Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is 7C, is a conditional use permit for Hickory Creek Barn. Pending the passage, obviously it was approved of agenda item 7B, a motion to pass an ordinance granting a zoning map amendment to A1 Agriculture District, conditional use permit for the continued operation of a horse stable, indoor-outdoor horse arena, equestrian? Sure, equestrian. Went to McHenry, relax. Equestrian-related agritourism and zoning variations of the property commonly known as Hickory Creek Farm. Director Pawlowski obviously already shared this information, so we'll go ahead and ask for a motion to approve. Alderman Strack?
Moved.
Thank you. Second? Alderman McClatchy?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion by City Council? Open up for public comment. Anyone from the public? Sir?
Carl Kaminsky from Johnsburg. I would hope that the council, you guys, would take this opportunity and down in the future to look at a valuable asset that you have under your hands with the horse farm. One example, we have the Wild Mustang out at Bull Valley, which is tailored to help vets in a particular area where they will be able to take other areas to help vets. You have an educational opportunity here with that horse farm to educate the students in the community that they don't have to go out to a great distance to a horse farm to understand that these animals were the creator of the city we're in. If it wasn't for the horses, we wouldn't have the city built the way it is if you go back in time and how that built McHenry. It's a great learning opportunity. And your long-term vision plan, should incorporate of how McHenry and the horse farm could have a good working relationship that adds more to McHenry than your downtown area. It's another avenue. So I hope you all consider that, you have great partners working and come up with some ideas of a working business model. And let's see that another attraction out at, the west side of our town. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to say that our county board representative we'll know that during discussions that we'll be looking at the county board reps to possibly see if we can't get us some grant money from the county for wherever we go with the discussions. Hate to put them on the spot, but we will.
All right. Any other questions by council? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Strack.
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderman Santee.
Yes.
Alderman Glab.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey.
Yes.
Alderman Cook.
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is 8A, is a recreation center expansion. This is a discussion item that Bill Hobson will start us
Do
out.
you want to have the discussion of Hickory Creek right now?
Just go ahead and do that first. We can do that. All right, while we're on
Coming
it.
off of that?
All right, we'll go to 8B, Hickory Creek Barn. We'll go ahead and start off that discussion. Alderman Glab, do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Well, basically, it started several months back. I got a email from constituent that lives in another ward now, used to be in my ward, and brought up the fact that Hickory Creek Farm has been in the city for close to 30 years, and the intent was supposed to be, it was purchased with taxpayer dollars and not open to the public on a regular basis. And since we've had the original discussions, I was out there just the other day with Alderman Strack. We had a discussion out there as far as what could be done. I think there's a ton of different opportunities out there, but needless to say, like anything else, it costs money. And but the thing is, I think the council, and I'll take the blame probably more so than anybody else. I've been on the council for what, my 27th year now, and even though this stable was procured before I got on the council, it's been neglected for all these years, and it's time that the city takes a little bit more interest in what's going on out there. It is a public facility. Even though we lease it out, we should have some knowledge of, on a day-to-day basis, exactly what's going on out there, and how do we, as a city, create opportunities for the residents of the city of McHenry for use of that barn. And I don't mean that we're wide open for them. I mean, but, what are the benefits for that to the residents of the city of McHenry? Does the Parks Department not have some kind of a program right now as far as equestrian or whatever?
We do have an equestrian. Well, we've had an equestrian for a long time. There's actually a stable in, I think, Woodstock that we partnered with for a long time before we had access to that, before there was riding lessons at this facility.
Right now, that program is out in Woodstock.
We advertise both. In our current brochure, we advertise both, and we did this past summer as well, where we've had some riding camps at Hickory Creek Farm, as well as we had an existing relationship, and as we're navigating that existing relationship and that we've had for years, we also want to take advantage of those in town. I don't want to, and I can't say at this point how we would navigate relationships, but I think council knows pretty well that my intention is always to stay with those relationships in town. And so we finally have that opportunity where these aren't just privately, the horses aren't all private. They have some horses that are available for riding lessons and for horsemanship camps this past summer. So we've had some good access to that. They're both advertised in our program brochure right now.
Well, I just think to some extent, I think there's so many opportunities out there, but I think the city needs to be, I don't want to say in control necessarily, but have to be the leaders of what goes on out there. We need to keep looking for grant money, whatever, fundraisers, whatever it takes. I take a look at that property out there, and it's deplorable. It really is. I mean, we've got the old Pearl Street Bridge in pieces out there yet that we're looking to use for, and it's all rusted. I mean, it's all just rusted and it's all laying, you know, out there in the open. There's a boat out there out in the open. There's old fencing that's out there. And it just detracts from, you know, the pleasantness that you could have of visiting a barn. I mean, granted, a barn is not going to be stellar, but stuff like shouldn't be laying around out there. I just think to some extent we need to look at how we have a excellent tenant out there, but rather than just a tenant, we need a partnership of some kind out there. In other words, the city needs to be, I mean, it is a city facility. We should be involved in somewhat of what can be done out there, but working with them as a partner, we can help them out as far as revenue as well. I mean, Alderman Strzok and I, like I said, were out there, you know, Sunday, and it was quite interesting. Some of the things I saw out there and things that I heard and discussions that we had, and I think, I'm sure Alderman Strzok's going to have some things to say as well. I just think there's a lot of golden opportunities that we can have. Is it all going to happen overnight? No, but we need to have some kind of game plan, and we need to move forward. And maybe it'll take 10, 15, or 20 years, but I mean, we've had that facility for close to 30 years, and nothing's been done about it other than the fact that we've switched tenants. And we've kind of relied on whatever the tenant would do, and we need to be more involved in it. So that's my take on it right now.
Go ahead, Bill. So just backtracking a little bit, starting, you know, with the purchase of the property, it was actually purchased with the sole intent of expanding Peterson Park. It was contiguous to the beachfront property, and that was why the city went after it, why we purchased it. Now, the hidden bonus for us was the barn and was the possibility of including equestrian type programs into our offering. I will say fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately there was somebody there that was paying rent at that point. Unfortunately, the type of business that tenant did was just board horses. And to your point, you know, shame on us for not being more involved at that point and trying to get some more open houses or public use for that. You know, we can fast forward 30 years now, and that's why it's before us right now to try to correct that wrong. I think when Mr. Sekula left, I was involved when Mr. Sekula left, and we were searching for a new tenant. We had put that out there and wound up interviewing 3 different tenants, possible tenants for the property. I say that we're extremely lucky to have landed with Bridget and her team. There was one tenant that we interviewed that, quite frankly, wanted to do the same thing, board horses and keep it a private facility. The second one did have some grand plans, but didn't have a team behind her to be able to accomplish what we hoped for, exactly what you're talking about, what we hoped for. And now we've seen Bridget and her team come in, and quite honestly, we're finally headed in the direction that we need to be going when we purchased the property. Obviously, the intent was to expand Peterson Park, but now in 1 year, we've had 4 or 5 public events out there where our community's actually been able to go out and be involved and view the property. And I will say this, quite frankly, it's been 30 years of neglect that's been out there. And so when you see some of those things, and yes, the Pearl Street Bridge, we don't have a place to put it. And we do hope at some point that we're restoring that and putting that as a pedestrian crossing of Boone Creek next to Landmark. So that is out there. But the ongoing process of cleaning that property, I think, if you were out there this weekend, you saw them putting some new fences up. You've seen, obviously, you've seen the roof, and thank you to your decision, the $350,000 to put a brand new roof on the facility and start to protect the envelope and bring that back. But some of the things maybe you don't notice is the investment, the private investment inside to the stalls, there's party rooms that they're working towards. They have a plan that we are in communication with, and we talk about where we're headed. We've never had that in 30 years. And so to have the ability to, Alderman Strack and I talked about today of what's the grand plan? Where are we headed with this thing? We're finally headed, and this is Bill Hobson, Parks Director's opinion. We're finally headed in the direction that we should have been headed 30 years ago when we bought it, not only as an addition to Peterson Park, but we have an equestrian offering where it's not just privately boarded horses. You have public horses that the goal at some point would be to have an equestrian trail. And maybe that's part of the Peterson farm that we can put an equestrian trail in. There's the pasture there, but they have the ability for people to go over and ride horses. You can't ride somebody's private horse, but they have horses that are there for the public and for public use. So it's more than just even a tour of the barn and what we're doing over there. It's actually access to horses that you can ride for our community. And so for a community of our size that was built on agricultural, built on the backs of horses, to finally be headed in the direction of having access to those horses. And it's on our shoulders too. It's on all of our shoulders to say, all right, how are we going to dedicate resources to continue to take steps in that direction with an equestrian trail or partnering with events? How can we help? And, I will say there's not a ton that we do, but for some of the events, we've brought out garbage cans or we brought out picnic tables to help with those events. It is a private business, but I look at it as a partnership, and I think it's been a partnership. It's been a partnership from their investment, and it's been a partnership from our investment into that facility. And so in 1 year to see what they've done, I can only imagine in 10 more years where we'll be and what a gem that property can be. Not only the management of the barn, but also that creek or that pond, to clean up around that pond and really make it, in some of the maps that you saw, I'm sure at one point you saw a reference to a skating pond. It's labeled as that, and there's an equestrian area that's the pasture across the way. Those were all part of that master plan for the OSLAD grant. So I firmly believe, and I know we'll have discussion on it, but I firmly believe that we're finally headed in the direction that we should have been headed 30 years ago, and we have a tenant that cares about what happens there. Not that our previous tenant didn't, but he was a farmer. He was, all right, the horses are here, and I don't really care about aesthetics. We're at a point where it's much more than that. They've cleaned up brush on the outside. They've worked with us to help on doing some of those things. You see new fences being installed. We're trying to help them with resources we have, and they're in turn investing that blood, sweat, and tears into it, as well as monetary into a property that's been neglected. So I hope to continue what we're doing right now. Thanks, Bill.
Yes. I guess more than anything else is, where are we going to be in 10 years? We don't know. We don't have a game plan, a specific game plan. Bill, we've taken and we've gone through for the Riverwalk, we've gone for the downtown area and everything else. We've done all these type of, studies and whatnot. We've come up with different types of plans or where we want to go with this. We really need a more in-depth look at where we're going with this barn. Let's say where we'd like to be, and again, it's all predicated on money and revenue. Where do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10? Maybe even where do we want to be out in 20 years? What's the finish? What does it take? How long is it going to take to get to that finish line? But we need to have some kind of a plan that's out there that we actually have on record of what we want to do and where we're going to be on this barn. And we need to get people involved from the community into this as far as businesses. There's just so many different types of opportunities, but we need to have the city more involved in it so that I think we'd probably have a lot more chances for bringing in revenue for the barn that way.
Sure. So I'll just add to that of exactly to what you're saying is what we're in the process of doing right now with our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, where we look at amenities and sites, including the equestrian activities as one of those questions. Very soon that survey will go out to our community. Similar, we don't want to get them confused with our comprehensive plan versus our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We are following the comp plan up with our Parks and Rec Master Plan that will specifically address not only this site, but our parks, and have some input you're involved in, that our community is involved in, to be able to have more of a say.
And I realize that, but we need a specific plan in detail more for this barn than just in the master plan, because it'll be more generalized in the master plan than what would it be if we were just focusing on the barn itself or that property itself. So that's, I think, what we need is we really need to look at what the possibilities are. I don't know if we need to have more discussions at council down, in the future as far as we're moving forward with this, after you do come up with some kind of an idea of where we're at. But I think there needs to be a lot more involvement by the council so that they know where we're at. And we need to look at how we can get the community involved into this as far as bringing in more revenue.
Alderman Miller?
I think Alderman Santee was first.
Oh, I thought his hand went down. Alderman Santee?
Thank you. So our action items, 7B, 7C, we passed those. We're moving forward with those initial startups here. Alderman Glab brought up partnership, brought up money, brought up a timetable. That's great. And the partnership is on this side of the table and with that lady Bridget out there. And Bridget, you're willing to partner up with us? Okay. So that's a first step forward. We're not going to solve everything tonight, but that's a first step forward. And I ask her to keep us on track to make sure we're doing everything that we can for you, in a time, in a limited time. And, when you feel the need to come to us, you should. And we should all be listening and by all means, move forward on certain issues out there.
Bridget, you have to come to the podium.
Bridget, you want to go to, I'm sorry, and I wasn't asking you, I just wanted to get a nod, yes, on a partnership, but if you have something to say, please.
So when Bill actually interviewed me, I had a business partner at the time, and he kind of reminded me a lot of you guys sitting up there in ties and suits and stuff like that. I'm not that type. But unfortunately, in September 1st, I have decided that I'm going to buy him out because his heart is not where my heart is. And then in October, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. But it's not stopped me from being able to do what I want to do. And I guess Alderman Glab coming out on Sunday was amazing, same with you, because I opened that up for zero money out of for me bringing money into the barn. So I want you guys to understand that Hickory Creek Farms and RJJ Ranch are a partnership. I'm trying to make that beautiful property look good for you guys and make the city proud. It looks like a foreclosure right now, but I was spending a lot of my own personal money into that, and I understand it takes money to make money, but I'm also trying to keep my lessons lower cost for people that are in the area that aren't going to be able to afford what it takes to provide for horses and all that fun stuff. My insurance went up yesterday for the event. We're putting new fencing up because all of the old fencing was broken, tattered, whatever. So I want you guys to kind of understand that I'm almost investing into the city property that I'm not going to ever get in return. So opening up the horse barn, I'm just barely breaking even, if not in the red. So just so you guys kind of understand that, I think that's what Gleb is trying to say is, like, is there funding out there for me? Is there grant money? I don't know where to research like that stuff. I can take care of horses really well and cut hair. So those are my two things. So that's what I kind of am asking you guys. Do you guys know about that stuff? Could you help me with that stuff? What do you guys have in your back pockets that could help make that place better? So I would love to have a partnership with you guys and really brainstorm and really just figure this out and just blow it out of the park, because it is such an amazing property. And, you know, when the Rise Up Foundation is doing their country concerts, their rock concerts, whatever, the backdrop is the barn. And, I mean, yes, it has a beautiful green roof that is still not 100% done yet, I don't think. Okay, yep. Okay. And I want you guys to know, too, that I was in contact with Ross and Dave and Bill and saying, hey, guys, do not cut the final check yet, because this is not done. This is not up to standards that I want you guys paying for. So just so you guys know, that's where I am for my partnership with it. So, any questions for me, I guess?
But No, I thank you, no.
Hang on for a minute if you want.
Yeah, Bridget, no, I thank you for your comments, and yeah, hopefully this is the start of a long-term partnership, and, the communication lines need to stay open, and you need to be, and by all means, stay honest. Thank you.
Will you guys call me back?
Bridget, I have a question.
Hang on.
I grew up all along McCollum Lake. I've always loved that barn, and I wanted to be improved. So, as far as I'm concerned, if I can help you, however I can, just let me know. I mean, hopefully the council's on my side too, but, I'll do whatever I can to help it, because I've always loved that place. I caught the biggest fish out of that pond too.
My son did too.
Any other questions, comments?
Alderwoman Miller.
Alderman Miller, go ahead.
Bridget, thank you for all you've done. When we gave you a roof, your gratitude was overwhelming. I think you should feel the sense that we want to establish that partnership. And I know in conversations you and I have had, you've always wanted to expand that based on your time, your energy, and the ability that the property has. So I think you probably are hearing pretty loud and clear that we want to expand what we do out there. So thank you for what you've done. Thank you for continuing to do what you do. And if there's anything, again, as Alderman Cook said, we can do for you, all you have to do is ask. That doesn't mean we're going to say yes. But if it's within our means, we'll make it happen, because we're proud of what you've done, and it can only get better from here. So thank you.
Alderman Strick?
So Alderman Glab and I went out and visited with Bridget yesterday during her open event, and she gave us a tour of every inch of the place, and there's plenty of things that need to be done. The last purveyor that was there obviously was not maintaining the way it probably should have been maintained. Today, Monty and Director Hobson sent me and everybody else a whole lot of documentation on the history of this place and all the things that have been done and acquired and what's been happening out there. So in my conversations today with Director Hobson, though, I think there's some things that we can be doing in our conversation with Bridget yesterday as well is, what's the end game? I needed to learn all the history and figure out where this whole thing came from, and got a lot of that kind of accomplished today. But I think we have not only this barn that Bridget's doing everything she can to turn into something different, we also have the Peterson Farm, and we're not utilizing the rest of that property in the way that we probably can partner with Bridget in to expand what we have in the barn over to Peterson Farm and make this kind of a package deal that we can really turn something quickly into something better for her and better for the city. So I think in that, Director Hobson and I had a conversation today about being able to cut some horse trails in at the farm itself, being able to do some riding on that property. Bridget and I talked about it yesterday, that they can even trailer some horses over there to do some guided tours through that property. Partnering with District 15 to get some educational programming done out there. I think there's plenty of things that can happen to draw this into what we want it to be, if that's what we choose to do. But at the end of the day, this council needs to make a direction on what it is we want to do with that. The other thing is, I don't know how we fund it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everything costs money. So we've got to decide what we want to do with that. And I don't know, I haven't had a conversation with Carolyn, but those incoming rents, are they earmarked to go towards funds directly for the barn? She's shaking her head yes, so I'm going to assume that we're already doing that. And then how can we, as a city, help to find grant opportunities, to work with the county, to work with, some of these horse associations as well. There's plenty of non-for-profits out there, and Bridget and I had a conversation about that yesterday, as maybe we can help her get some direction on, maybe we can find a way to create a Friends of the Barn, Friends of Hickory Creek, whatever, non-for-profit, and start something in that realm to help get some funding out there to help us so that it's not a complete burden on the city. We can utilize what's happening out there as best we can and then continue to work with her as a partner. So I think there's a lot that can be done. And initially in my conversation with Director Hobson today was, how can we right now utilize getting some trails put in, expanding over to Peterson Farm, and if everybody's on board with that, I'd love to be able to give that direction to Director Hobson tonight to reach out to her and get that done.
All right.
Thank you.
Alderman Miller?
Well, I'll add to that. Just as we reached out to McHenry County Conservation when we needed to do something at Cold Springs, we have an equestrian-focused county, and there are many organizations that are out there, and they have money. So what a great idea to reach out to the rest of that network and say, we have an opportunity. Again, you have to create that relationship because it's your enterprise. But I just think through my head as you were saying that, because I grew up on a farm, we had horses, I know, I'm one of those girls. There are always people willing to help financially with animals. So, Hooved Animal Society is probably a launching point to a whole network of individuals that specialize in horses, equestrian opportunities, and, doing those things. And of course, to Peterson Farm, Bill and I have talked for years now about doing community gardens out there, which is a very small fundraiser, but it would utilize come to the farm and do more than 1 or 2 sessions a year out there. We could have beekeepers out there. I just sent Ross a text about let's raise chickens out there. It's a farm. People don't know what farms are. Let's reintroduce it and reinvent it.
All right. So where do we go from here, Bill? I mean, why don't we, in my opinion, how about we have a meeting? It could be a posted meeting if we want, but maybe can meet in the next couple months as a group. It's not mandatory, but maybe get a couple council members involved and at least have those discussions to start out where they want to go with this and then how we can work together to get it done versus talking about it at a meeting, but we could post it in case there's more than 3 of us that show up.
I would say, for me, the next thing is as we're working through the Parks and Recreation Master Plan process, that does, like you say, it gives us a higher level, and then let's take that higher level, and then after there's input from everybody, then we can continue to refine that down and provide additional direction. But I'm not putting any decision off or delaying any decision, but let's let that be part of the process as well. An independent firm that we've hired to take a look at and listen to our input from our community, from our councilmen, from our stakeholders, and start that a little bit more formally, and then we can continue to have that discussion. Would be my initial direction to your question.
Okay. Everyone go with that?
Yeah, I would love to just know that we can, at this point, I think it would be very imperative that we could provide Bridget and her team the rest of Peterson Farm to get some trails cut in. And if no one's opposed to that, I'd love to be able to get that at least conversation started, let Bridget and her team go over and start looking at that, because it's going to take a little bit of work to get that done. I don't want to delay that if no one's opposed to it.
Alderman Clutcher?
Thank you. No, I totally agree with that. I bet half this town doesn't even know Peterson Park exists. Peterson Farms, I mean. And whatever we can do to start promoting that farm, I'm all for it. So, yeah.
Is anyone opposed?
Can I just use that as a little bit of a springboard? If any of you have people that are extremely interested in either the Hickory Creek Farm or the Peterson Farm, and this is probably more of a staff report item, but we've hit a point where there is a Peterson Farm Foundation in place, but that has no members. It is a 501c3, and all the members have taken a step back. And so it's sitting there ready for people that are interested in this. So I'm not asking for any answers right now, but if you have constituents that are interested, and I have to talk to David about how we rebuild that board or look at their bylaws of what that takes with no existing members, how that's done. But that's recently come up within the last month of an issue of, if they only had 2 board members at one point, they have no board members now. So if you have people that are interested, we're looking to rebuild what that is, And in some ways, I think the two farms almost go hand in hand. They kind of always have, and I think that they will continue to work hand in hand. But to your point of not only programming the farm, but also looking at trails and looking at how the two tie together.
Who were the two board members left?
No, there are none.
There are none right now. It was Karen Geese.
Who were the last two?
Karen Geese and Pat Schaefer were the last two that were that were actually approved members on that foundation.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Miller?
So I think Monty and his crew have done an amazing job on revitalizing our newsletter most recently. And I know you said Nicole has taken a lead role in doing that. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to create a newsworthy item in our newsletter that'll be going out in January, right? It's the next one?
Yeah, we'll be working on it, it'll go in like the end of February, it'll come out, yeah?
Perfect, newsworthy. Are you interested in? Would you like to help? People don't know the opportunities exist until you publish them. I recently went to the county website and I couldn't believe all the vacancies on boards, commissions, and service areas. We don't have that list anywhere that I can find on our website. So I think a little publicity, maybe create that list of, do we have vacancies? Will bring people out of their closets and say, oh, I knew that farm when it was a farm. I want to be part of that. So I think we need to speak our own horn more often than not. So Monty, have at it.
All right. Perfect. I think we're good there then. All right. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you to your entire team, husband. I know he he does a lot over there as well. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Keep healthy.
Next item on the agenda is 8A, Recreation Center expansion. You want to go ahead and start us off, Bill?
Yeah, definitely. So, thank you, Mayor. We have had this discussion for a long time about the offerings of the expansion of the Recreation Center. 2018 was the last time that we brought it forward to our community. Council had voted at that point to put it on as a referendum. We did a community needs assessment, checked all the boxes that we needed to do, and including a master plan for what the facility looks like, and based it largely upon our community needs assessment that was done in 2017. Some of our conditions haven't gotten any better. The Merkel Aquatic Center is not getting any younger. Last year alone, we probably put $75,000 in it between a pump and a heater. It continues to head that direction. That will have to be something that we address in the future, regardless of whatever decision we decide. We also have talked about things like a gymnasium. For our community, there's not access to. We have gyms at the schools, but other than open gyms that we as a Parks and Recreation Department partner with them and offer, those facilities are not available. If you're a senior that wants to walk on a walking track, that doesn't exist. Obviously, and when weather changes like this, it's extremely relevant. We also all know what the results were in 2018 when we were partnered with the high school referendum as well that was asking for $44 million for a referendum. And you all have an opinion on this, and I think that's why I want to bring it back as a discussion item, that those comments in our community haven't gone away, that desire to have these facilities, and I think that the mayor can probably speak to that as well. And so I wanted to bring this back forward because time is of the essence if we are looking to, if there's a potential for a referendum this spring, we have to have this discussion, get your wishes, so that we can put a question together that would have to be certified or presented to the county by January 2nd to be on the ballot for March 19th is the general election for 2024. That's why it's before you, and that's the discussion I'd like to at least have us entertain this evening.
Thank you, Bill. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
The way you hit there, you don't even have Mr. Agent, go ahead.
No, I was just going to bring back the history of the rec center. When I sat on the council, nobody wanted to put the burden on the taxpayers as far as building the rec center. Nobody would move forward. And I brought up the fact that we could use developer donation funds and then and bond out money to do it in 3 phases. Because I believe that that plan is still for 3 phases, correct? It's supposed to start out with the gym that we have. It's supposed to go to aquatic, and then we're supposed to go to the gymnasium with the walking track and everything else. From what I recall.
There's 3 more elements. There's an indoor gymnasium, obviously a gymnasium, ideally 3-court gymnasium with a walking track. There's an indoor aquatic component, and there's the outdoor aquatic center, family aquatic center. So 3 additional phases based off the core of what we have.
Right. So the council basically was not going to take, I believe we had a referendum, an advisory referendum that was shot down as far as putting that on, onto the
advisory referendum in 2002.
Yeah, and I think it was.
The whole YMCA conversation.
Yeah, and the rec center has probably been discussed
a lot.
The last 50 years. I mean, basically,
Since 1983, when the pool was in.
Exactly, it was either a rec center or the Knox Pool, and the community decided on the Knox Pool. But all I'm getting at is we started the rec center with the idea that we use developer donation funds to get it started, plus bonding the money, and the bonds were being paid off by the users. Where are we with that?
We were essentially break even last year as a business operation.
Is that with paying off bonds, or?
Yeah, we make a bond payment every year, and we opened
Right.
in 2016, so we're...
So when you're saying we're breaking out even, we're still paying off bonds while we're
Yes.
doing it. So
Paying off bonds as we...
how many years have we got left on those bonds?
13 years.
13 more years. So basically, unless subscribers, there's a large increase in subscribers, we're looking at 13 more years before we go to the next phase. So, I mean, I don't think the community's ready to add more, and I'm not going to want to go out for a rec center like the school did with the expansion that saves $70 and vote yes. They didn't tell you you'd save $335 if you had voted no. So supporting different things is fine, but the rec center, I just still feel to some extent, I think the average resident in the city of McHenry is not going to be, wanting to go forward with this. I mean, what percentage do you feel that our residents are, of our residents that are actually using the rec center?
What percentage of our residents? Well,
Yeah.
We have 1,200 members, and
Okay.
75% of those are city residents.
So
You do the math.
okay, and then figure out the percentage of we have how many 27,000 people, and so I don't see that many people that don't use the rec center to vote yes for something like this. And what's our cost if we run a referendum?
Well, we can control cost of referendum.
We have no cost for the referendum. Okay, so I mean,
No, there's not a budget. We would put a committee together and have businesses contribute to that, exactly like the high school did. We can't spend city dollars, to ask for somebody to vote yes. We can do an informational campaign, but that was our last one, which we used Parks and Recreation, the Park Recreation Fund for signage, and that was all we spent, and there wasn't that much of it when we went the last time.
well, like I said, I think the council made a good decision years back as far as not hitting with property taxes, and I would not be in favor of going to property taxes to expand this. However, I would probably support going to a referendum on it if that's what we did, you know, if that's what we wanted to do, because it should be the residents that decide on this.
Alderman Santi?
First question was answered. We're at 1,200 members right now.
1,239 members as of
Okay.
December 1st.
And what was our peak at?
Our peak was like 2,200 members.
And that was like year 2, year 1? Yeah, okay. So new thing. Let's check it out.
It was probably more than we could sustain.
Sure.
For our size at that point.
And over the years, how many surveys have we done with this?
Specifically regarding this?
Yeah, regarding
We've probably done two. Well, each time we did a master plan, we've asked about it. So
yeah.
There's 2 that I was involved in personally.
And what's it in the top 3 answers were? What do they want? What do they want? Number 1.
Well, number 1, everybody always wants number 1. It'll come back in our next time. We'll predict it right now in our master plan. Number 1 is always walking.
Okay. Okay.
They want a walking path.
Number 2.
Number 2 is they want indoor aquatics.
Okay.
I want a pool that I can go indoor and year round and swimming.
Okay. All right. And then if you can recall number 3.
3 is going to be the gymnasium.
The gymnasium.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want the ability to have the pickleball or the basketball or the explosion of pickleball has been one specifically that people have really taken out there.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but those surveys, any idea the number of people that responded to the surveys?
I'd have to go back and check. The last
one, if you can recall.
2017, we know was statistically valid. There was enough people that responded that it wasn't just a sliver of the population. There was enough people that responded that weren't just grasping at straws.
And the only thing I have to say is just kind of getting the numbers together is that I'd like to put this ball in the citizens' court, with the referendum worded correctly, to see where that goes, because it is a huge expense, and it's something that we definitely can't touch as a council, for many, many years. But the citizens are reacting to it, and they're responding to surveys. So, I'd like to move forward on that. I know we have a January 2nd deadline.
It has to be submitted to the county by January 2nd.
How long does it take you to put this together?
This question doesn't take long.
Okay.
We'll have to look at
Oh, is it?
The 18th.
the amount.
It's good.
Well, the amount will be questioned. I mean, obviously, this is a 2018 number. There's probably some we should add to that 30 just to be on that side. We have to talk to bond council to make sure that we are where we're at with the steps that we took last time. But we have the question worded already. It would be the same question that we presented in 2018 that we would reformat and put on that.
So how would that work, though? What's the return you're looking for to say they're giving us a direction? 50%?
From council?
No, from the referendum.
From the well, that's going to be 51%.
Yeah.
Is
Then you'll just look for it, or are you asking for a
ultimately, and so the advisor, if the referendum would come back, and then ultimately it would be in your hands then to vote, to make that increase.
Because you don't need a binding referendum, your home rule. So is that what you're thinking? You would end up asking the council? Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, a binding referendum. I'm sorry. Alderman Clancy. No.
You wouldn't need a binding referendum. It doesn't matter whether it's binding or not, because you can levy for it. You just need permission to do it, so to speak, more than 50%. That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
And I know it's written here on our packet. I'm not sure if that's something that needs to be reviewed or finalized legally or something prior, and the clerk's got to approve it, the county, correct? The wording on something like this?
No.
We got it?
No, you have to confer with the bond council.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you. Director, do you remember what the amount that we were asking for at the last referendum?
We were asking for 30 million last referendum.
The same as this?
I think, we'll take the look at the amount is in the process right now. I think that we should look to increase this by some percentage from 2018. If we're looking at doing the same plan, if we're saying present the entire, and this is why we're having the discussion, if we're saying present the whole thing for a property, the gymnasium, the indoor pool, and the outdoor aquatic center, if we're saying present that and not paring it down at all, then I think we should probably increase that slightly from a 2018 number based solely on inflation.
Like 20%?
Yeah, realistically, yes.
I mean, material costs alone, that's not, I mean,
The,
that's not gonna
yeah,
cover
the inflation the inflation since 2018, it's like 22% is exactly where it's at.
Well, you're looking at 36.
Be 36. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of putting it on the ballot, let the people decide and go from there, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Miller?
I am in total support of putting it on the ballot. I think if we've learned anything from COVID, people want to have recreational opportunities home. They don't want to drive. They don't want to go somewhere. I think we'll have more support on it this time around just for the lack of public facilities. You know, when Healthbridge closed in Crystal Lake, a lot of our people that went down there for indoor pool are like, okay, now where? And they go to the Y, and you can't float in the Y's pool because there's way too many humans. So I think there would be a great support for this. People want to live, work, and play where they live, and this is a good opportunity for us to serve our public.
Bessie?
Just a real quick questions to clarify it. Let's say we do go to the referendum, which I'm perfectly in favor of doing that, and we do get, it is approved by the residents, the $36 million roughly, is that going to be bonds, real estate taxes, a combination thereof?
So it'll be a bond that's issued that we then put on property taxes. So normally we abate our taxes and we pay it with our own revenue, but these bonds would not be abated. It would be put on their tax bill.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Cook?
My opinion?
Yeah, your opinion.
I just like private business to have their own aquatic, you know, like the YMCA or something like that. I understand COVID only came around once every, 200 years, whatever it was, but, I don't know, I know everybody wants an indoor pool. I think we could use McHenry High School more.
Pay the taxes for it.
Mm-mm.
No? Okay.
No.
Never mind. I'm looking at Peterson Park, go swimming out there, we'll chop a hole in the end.
Alderman
Residents decide.
Alderman Strack?
Yeah, same. I would not want to put it on us unless, you know, we gave the public an opportunity to tell us that's what they want to do. And, you know, if that comes with a strong, clear message, then I'm on board. But it would have to be from them for sure.
Thank you. Alderman Miller?
So Bill dropped this at the State of the City event at the Vixen. It came out of nowhere, and he put up a big slide, and everybody was like, oh! And then walking out, I had a zillion conversations about, is that real? And I'm like, I have no idea. Hobson just dropped that on all of us. But all of the conversation was positive about, God, we need that. That would be awesome. Do we have room for it? Yes, it was in the master plan all the way along. That's why the rec center is crooked. So I thought it was kind of interesting just in that little teaser, Bill Hobson, where you just whipped it up on the big screen, that there was already some momentum in that select group. I mean, I don't know how many people were there, but yeah, I probably had 20 conversations on the way out going about the rec center. So, you know, Mr. Hobson is the planner of mischief, and he just dropped that on all of us to deal with. Thank you, Bill.
In all fairness, just to be clear, that wasn't just me. There was
someone else involved.
The person that was actually giving the speech that day had requested that I come up there and drop that bomb. So just to be clear to everybody, That wasn't me just going rogue and jumping up there and...
Thank you,
grabbing the
Wade.
mic. I got enough trouble as it is.
Alderman Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah, number one, I hear $30 million, and then I hear, well, maybe 10% more. We don't know. We got to have some kind of an idea of what we're talking about, the exact cost, before we start going out for a referendum, I think. Rather than just say $30 million and then find out that really we needed $42 million or $43 million or $45 million. You know, let's find that let's get those numbers refined, and then maybe we wait until fall to throw it on a referendum rather than at this time. Plus, when you throw it in the primary, you don't get quite as many people out, I don't think, as you get in the general election. And the more people that vote on this, I think better, you know, for the community. But I think we need more of an exact science of what we're talking about as far as the dollars that we're looking at, and actually have a total game plan rather than saying $30 million and maybe we add 10% because of inflation.
And I do have the firm working on that numbers right now. I just for when this supplement went out, the architect did not have the finalized numbers, and so that's why I say I left it at $30 million. It's been 20% inflation since we last went with this, and so that's where, if you want my number right now, it's $36 million to build that same indoor, outdoor, aquatic center, all of that.
And the architect
but the architect is working on that right now.
Crystal ball back?
Well, the architect...
Can I have my crystal ball back?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, we're taking numbers out of the air. Okay, so maybe we just hold off on this discussion until the next meeting, until he actually gets the figures from the firm that he's got looking at all the figures. Let's get the exact dollars.
So the 18th is when we would have to have a vote to bring it for the spring.
Our last city council meeting before, we're not going to do any special meeting. Our last city council meeting is the next one, the 18th of December.
And that's the day it's due.
Yeah.
That's still...
The day
it's due is January 2nd, 24.
Right.
So if we had to...
We could do a special meeting before that if we need to.
Yes.
Would this give you enough time with the holidays if we voted on the 18th?
Yes.
Yeah. By the 2nd?
Yes.
With the holidays? Okay.
And I say that because so much legwork is done once before that we're updating figures. We're not looking to make any drastic plan change from what our community's seen, what we've seen. So we're updating that. I believe in that plan. I believe in that outdoor aquatics. I believe in the amenities that were presented. I think that's what from what I've heard, that's what our community is still asking for. And so it's a simple update of numbers and plans from the professional source.
Alderman Miller?
No, Alderwoman Massey asked my question. I'm good. Thank you. You're next.
So I disagree with waiting till fall. I think we need to move this forward because once we get a referendum and we get that feedback, we're already in summer, basically. And if we get the positivity of do it, then we're back at square one, planning it, bidding it, engineering it, making it even, I mean, we're not even breaking ground till 2025 by the time we get all that stuff done. Right. So I would respectfully disagree with holding off till fall and putting it on the primary ballot if we're really waiting for our constituents to have input. And given the fact that we would have to put, again, some notice out there, we've got a newsletter coming out, sample ballots are always available. If people are so concerned about this, it will drive them to the polls. So I don't have a fear at all of putting it on the primary.
Agreed. Thank you. Alderman Bassey?
Just a quick question. Timeline. Let's say that the residents decide they want to do this. What is the breakdown? And what is the breaking ground? And when do you expect completion? Because this is a big project.
It is a big project.
How many years are we looking at?
Well, let's say, so March. It gets approved, everybody votes for it and love it, and then you guys vote for the increase. And then we plan, and probably, again, some of that planning has already started when you can see the master plan, but actually making the building plans, we're probably 6 to 8 months for a building of this project of this size. And then I would say, by the time we go out to bid, we construct, the goal would be May 2026.
Okay. And completion?
Yes. Like, that would be opening May 2026.
Oh,
would
that's
be,
the completion. What's
You would probably start that fall, go out for bid of '24, and then build it in '25.
Yes, it would be 25 would be a whole construction year.
Right.
So like
Open in 26.
January 1 or whenever you can actually like dig dirt and it's not frozen. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Gleb?
Yeah, just kind of interesting as far as what kind of amenities are we specifically talking on the expansion, as far as, will that be spelled out as far as, let's say, for seniors?
Yes, yeah, there's a number of amenities, and very clearly, one of the big things is a walking track. It's one of the things that I wouldn't move off of, a free element for our seniors especially, to be able to come in and walk. One of the other things about the indoor pool was we had two separate, you had a lap lane pool, and then you had a warm water therapy pool that you could do aqua aerobics and those type of things, that it's all, a lot of times geared towards seniors and very well received by them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, perfect. So we'll bring it back on the 18th, and if we have to, for some reason, do another special meeting, we can discuss that further, but hopefully that will not be the case, right?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Any other staff reports this evening? None? Okay. City council comments? Oh, Tricia, go ahead.
So I was curious, like, on the metrics for the survey, like, is that done through, like, a third party, or is that something that the city does?
It's done through a third party, yeah. We hired a firm to specifically put those surveys out there.
I'm in favor for it being on the ballot, and speaking like that as the city clerk, as like a resident. I've seen my children have to go to Crystal Lake to go ice. My son played hockey. My son goes to Lick Holes because the baseball field was better. I've seen them go swimming at the pool, and it was just too small, so we would go to House Bridge. So I think it's a return on investment for, I mean, my kids are older now, obviously. I don't want to hate myself.
No, you said honestly.
I think it's an investment if we want to move forward in this community, and I think we as a whole have done a great job, and it's just like another piece of the puzzle to make it great here. And I think it will keep people here, and especially the youth that's growing up will have facilities and things. So that's just my opinion. I'd love to see it on the ballot.
Thanks, Trish. Alderman Cook?
Are we going to get any skating rinks in there so the kids can play hockey this year?
Skating rinks where?
Well,
outside, or there's no indoor skating rinks. There's nowhere.
Fox Ridge, you got
yes.
Over there at
they're coming.
AP Friends.
So we don't do Friend anymore. When we resurfaced those courts,
okay.
When you put the liner down, it ruins the surfacing. So that was $27,000. If we put the liner on top of that, it will ruin the surface, and that's why we transitioned. We have 2 ice rinks that we will attempt to put up at Fox Ridge Park. You'll probably see us putting the boards and the liner up pretty quick. There's still, obviously, we just had 50 degrees last week, and we're about to have 50 degrees this week. And so until we get that heat out of the ground, that's why we'll have everything set up and ready to go. When we get that cold spell, we'll flood it. They'll flood the rinks at Fox Ridge, and then we need to let Mother Nature kind of do the rest. The ice rink at Miller Point is a refrigerated ice rink, so it can withstand anything up to 50 and still maintain ice there. So we have every intention of putting the ice rinks back up at Fox Ridge Park. Those are the only ones that we've maintained the last, probably 10, maybe.
Have you ever
10
thought
years.
of McCollum Lake, Peterson Park, opening that up and shoveling that off for the kids and
We
stuff
used
like
to.
that?
We used to actually drill a hole and get a pump and spray the water down so it made a nice surface. And it for what it took for us to do that, it was rarely, if ever, used. It's just a lot of work. Putting ice rinks out are a lot of work. Even at Fox Ridge, you have to continually top dress that, and you're still a weather dependent.
Okay.
Just a comment about the Fox Ridge. As an ice skater, please keep the hockey players off of the figure skating because we fall.
We do our best. That's why we put up the two. One's just for hockey with the net, and the other one is just an open skate one. So we do our best to do that.
All right. Any other city council comments? See none, looking for a motion to adjourn. Alderman Bessie?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Yeah.
no executive session?
No.
Nope. Alderman Santee?
Second.
Thank you. Trish, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
City council, thank you, everyone.